One.
But at the same time, I'm going to recommend that you get a whole life policy.
One of those questions you talked about earlier about whole life insurance, right? Can you explain the difference between term life insurance and whole life insurance and the pros and cons of each?
All right. I would recommend a term life policy under these conditions. If you need to cover a large amount of debt. So,
Mm,
for example, when you're younger, you get married, you and your wife get a mortgage. Um, you have your cars and your toys and all your gadgets and gizmos, right? But it's during your working years, and you're anticipating, I'm going to have time to pay these things off.
mhm,
But God forbid, if something happens to you, that debt is left on your significant other. So you would want a term policy where you can pay pennies on the dollar and have enough to cover in the event of your untimely demise. It'll cover those things that you would want your spouse to have. You don't want her to lose it, um, because she's having to come up with money in the absence. Because people don't factor this in. You're
mhm,
going from two incomes, possibly, especially in today's life, or you
mhm,
got a stay-at-home wife. So she's not working at all. And if you pass away, that burden of everything that you all were building falls squarely on her shoulder. You're going to want a term policy to cover all of that.
one.
But at the same time, I'm going to recommend that you get a whole life policy. You can get both. So that's something that I've heard people where they feel like they have to choose one or the other. I'm going to say get both because you're young, because you're healthy. Get that whole life policy locked in because you're never going to be younger than you are right now. And you're probably not going to be healthier than you are right now. Right. So the younger you are and the healthier you are, the the better you're gonna get a rate. If you gotta eat noodles for, a season of your life or whatever, we go through the struggle, prioritize holding on to those. And you still want to make sure that your funeral is taken care of, or you still want to make sure you leave a little something, regardless of how old you live. For those of us that might have longevity in our family, and we're used to seeing Big Mama and Papa be 95, 97. We used to seeing people in our family make it to 100, but we
Mhm.
don't want to be at 97 years old and we finally do go on to be with the Lord, and we still got to have our family do a fish fry or sell
Mm.
chicken strips. That wouldn't be good stewardship, in my opinion.